There is a stillness beneath all your striving, a silence behind every name you've been given. And within that silence, there is a presence that has never once forgotten who you are. You were never lost, dear soul. You were only learning to remember. You have wandered far in search of something that was never absent. You have climbed, you have fallen, you have searched the stars and measured your worth by fleeting shadows. But the sacred truth is this: the light you were looking for has always been inside you, patient and whole. It is the great forgetting that makes us believe we are broken. It is the illusion of separation that gives rise to suffering. The ego, that temporary mask we wear, whispers of inadequacy and need. It tells you that you must do more, become more, possess more. But the soul, that eternal whisper within, gently repeats what it has always known. You are already whole. You are already home. Every time you felt abandoned, you were not alone. Every time you stumbled in the dark, a deeper part of you was watching with love. Like the moon veiled behind clouds, your light never dimmed. Only your awareness of it did. And even that forgetting was not a mistake. It was part of the sacred unfolding. The Tao teaches the way that can be walked is not the true way. And so we chase paths thinking salvation is somewhere else, but you are not a path to be followed. You are the ground itself. You are not becoming. You are being. You are not behind. You are in perfect timing with your own becoming. When the storm howls and the sky cracks, you must remember, you are not the storm. You are the sky. The weather changes. The sky remains. You are the space in which life happens. The witness, not the wound. The awareness, not the thought. The presence, not the past. What the world calls failure is often the soul's way of realigning you. What you call a wrong turn is grace, dressed in unfamiliar clothing. There is intelligence in the detour. There is sacredness in the breakdown. For it is only when the image of who we thought we should be shatters that the truth of who we are begins to shine. Do not fear the falling apart. Do not resist the shedding. The caterpillar never dies, it transforms. You are not being destroyed. You are being reshaped. Each tear is a baptism. Each heartbreak is a teacher. Each moment of despair is a gateway through which your soul whispers, come closer, come home. You see, you were never asked to be perfect, only present. You were never asked to have all the answers, only to listen, not to the noise of the world, but to the soft hum of eternity within your chest. That still voice has never stopped speaking. It calls you not by your title, not by your trauma, not by your achievements, but by your essence. And your essence is divine, not someday, not when, but now. Now as you read these words, now in the ache and the yearning, now in the quiet in between, there is nothing to become, only something to allow. There is no destination, only presence. This is the sacred paradox. You are both the student and the teacher, the seeker and the sought, the wave and the ocean. And so I say to you, stop waiting. Stop postponing your peace for a time when the conditions are right. The world may never be quiet, but you can become the silence. Your healing does not wait at the top of the mountain. It waits in your willingness to be here, to be real, to be enough without needing to earn it. There is a divine rhythm to everything, and you are not separate from it. The same breath that moves through the trees moves through you. The same intelligence that spins galaxies lives in your heartbeat. There is no exile, only forgetfulness. Every moment of doubt, every moment of pain was not proof of your disconnection. It was the soul's way of calling you deeper, into surrender, into remembrance, into truth. And the truth is this: you were never lost. You were only learning how to see with different eyes. You were learning how to peel away the layers of expectation and return to the raw, radiant beauty of your own being. You don't need to fight anymore. You don't need to strive. Just stop. Just breathe. Just feel the sacred pulse of life moving through you. That is your guide. That is your home. Let go of the need to explain. Let go of the need to justify your path. You are walking a spiral, not a straight line. And every turn, even the ones that seem backward, are bringing you closer to the center. The soul is not linear. It does not measure time in achievements. It measures time in awareness. And when you become aware, truly aware of the light you carry, of the love that you are, the search ends. Not in fanfare, not in fireworks, but in the holy simplicity of this moment. And then you will see every fall was grace in disguise. Every loss was a form of love. Every silence was filled with sacred music. And you, yes, you were never broken, never forgotten, never unworthy. You were just learning to return, learning to love, learning to be, and now you remember, now you are free. You have not come to this life to conquer it, nor to outsmart it. You have come to merge with it, to soften into the pulse of what already is. There is a wisdom encoded in your surrender that no amount of planning could ever reveal. The soil does not wrestle with the seed, it simply holds it. And so too, life is holding you, even when all you feel is falling. The voice of the world will often tempt you with urgency. It will tell you that time is running out, that your worth is tied to motion, that stillness is stagnation. But your soul knows better. Your soul knows that the deepest transformations never rush. Mountains do not bloom, oceans do not strive, and the stars do not hurry across the sky. They simply are radiant in their being, faithful in their existence. So be faithful to your own existence, not to the image you show, not to the expectations you carry, but to the essence that never left you, not once, not even in your loneliest hour. That essence is your real self. And when you return to it, when you rest in it, life stops being something to survive and becomes something sacred to feel. There is no virtue in exhaustion. You were not born to burn yourself out proving your worth. You are not here to validate your place by productivity. You are not a machine, you are a miracle. And the miracle of you can only be witnessed when you slow down enough to be seen not by others, but by your own soul. To awaken does not mean to change the world, it means to change your relationship with it. The tree outside your window is no different today than it was yesterday. But your ability to see it, to notice the way the light plays upon its leaves, to sense the ancient stillness in its roots that shift is everything. Your life does not need more doing, it needs more seeing. Seeing the divine, not in grand gestures, but in subtle truths. Seeing yourself not as a problem to be solved, but as a mystery to be experienced. And yes, there will be pain, there will be loss, there will be moments that knock the breath from your lungs and make you forget your own light. But even in those moments, perhaps especially in those moments, you are being offered something sacred, the invitation to meet yourself more deeply than ever before. Not the self who knows what to say, not the self who fits into every room, but the self who aches, the self who weeps, the self who longs not to be understood but to simply be held in truth. That self is not weak. That self is not broken. That self is the doorway to the divine. You cannot heal what you are unwilling to feel. You cannot rise if you refuse to touch the ground. The lotus grows in the mud. The phoenix is born in flame. And you are forged in the holy fires of being human. This is not a mistake. This is a sacred design. So stop asking why it happened. Stop asking what you did to deserve this. And begin asking, what is this pain here to teach me? What part of me is it trying to restore? Not punish, not diminish. Restore. The universe is not cruel. It is precise. And it will keep guiding you through what feels like repetition until you learn to meet it with presence instead of resistance. Not to punish you, but to awaken you. And in that awakening, everything you once feared begins to lose its grip. Not because the fear is gone, but because you are no longer feeding it with your absence. You are here now, fully, softly, unapologetically. There is great power in your softness. Do not mistake gentleness for weakness. The ocean, after all, carves canyons through stone, not with force, but with patient surrender. So let your love be relentless in its gentleness. Let your truth be quiet but unshakable. Let your presence be the answer to every question that once tormented your restless heart. You are not here to explain yourself. You are here to embody yourself. You are not here to escape the pain. You are here to sanctify it by facing it with love. Because what you face with love, you transform. And what you transform, you free. Let yourself be free. Even if you don't yet know what freedom feels like. Even if your first step into the unknown feels like falling, trust that the wings you thought were lost will remember how to rise. Trust that the love you thought was gone will begin to stir again in places you once left untouched. Because the soul is not destroyed by silence. It is found there. There is a rhythm to your return, a cadence not heard with the ears, but felt with the spirit. It pulses beneath your resistance, beneath your memories, beneath the layered expectations of who you were told to be. And when you listen not to fix, not to perform, but to truly listen, that rhythm begins to carry you home. Not a home with walls and rooms, but a home made of presence, of peace, of breath. You have searched long enough. You have turned over stones in distant lands, followed maps drawn by others, and measured your worth against imagined destinations. But now, you are being asked to put down the compass and become the direction itself. You are not a traveler on the path. You are the path. You are not following the light. You are the source of it. What does it mean to no longer chase your life, but to become it? It means trusting your own unfolding. It means sitting in the uncertainty without rushing to label it. It means understanding that clarity is not something you find, it is what remains when the fog of fear is allowed to pass through unresisted. The Buddha said, 3 things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. And so it is with your spirit. You may bury it beneath shame, you may silence it beneath logic, you may disguise it beneath masks and roles. But eventually, when the noise becomes too heavy, when the chase becomes too hollow, the truth of who you are rises not with drama, but with stillness. It rises like dawn, quietly illuminating what was always there. There is no mistake you have made that has disqualified you from your own light. There is no wound you carry that renders you unworthy of grace. In fact, your wounds are sacred. They are the cracks through which the light of consciousness has entered you. They are the altars upon which your awakening was born. Stop trying to heal so you can be worthy. You are already worthy, and from that worthiness, healing naturally flows. Healing is not an outcome. It is a remembrance. A soft return to the self beneath the bruises. A gentle unveiling of what was never broken. You do not need to be seen to be real. You do not need to be understood to be valid. The soul does not clamor for recognition. It is content to simply be. And when you attune yourself to that frequency, you begin to live not from validation, but from vibration. Not from proving, but from radiating. Every breath becomes a prayer. Every moment a meditation. Every interaction an offering. And in this space, something exquisite begins to unfold. You stop reacting and begin responding. You stop fearing endings and begin honoring beginnings. You stop asking life to deliver something new and start allowing yourself to meet life with something ancient, your essence. There is no longer a need to convince the world of your value. When you know your worth, your energy speaks before your words do. When you embody truth, the universe bends toward you, not because it owes you, but because it recognizes you. Because alignment is magnetic. Because authenticity is irresistible to the rhythm of life. Let yourself be that honest, that open, that undefended. Not because it's safe, but because it's true. Truth is your safety, not comfort, not certainty, but truth. The kind that rises from your belly when you stop filtering your soul through someone else's lens. And yes, it will be raw. Yes, it will be vulnerable. But in that rawness, in that sacred exposure, you will feel more alive than you ever did when you were hiding. Because hiding may keep you protected, but it also keeps you disconnected. And your soul was not born to be safe, it was born to be free. This freedom, this real soulful freedom, is not found in rebellion, but in revelation. It is not about being against anything, it is about being fully for yourself. Not the egoic self, but the eternal self. The self that cannot be described in words, only felt in presence. And as you begin to live from that self, as you begin to speak, walk, breathe from that space, you realize something humbling, something breathtaking, that your very existence is a miracle. That your being here, right now, with all your scars and softness and soul, is not a mistake. It is a message. You are the message, not the achievements, not the resume, not the roles you've played or the battles you've won. You, just as you are the living evidence of a loving, intelligent universe. So live like it. Not in arrogance, but in reverence. Not in striving, but in surrender. Not in fear, but in fullness. Because this moment is holy. This breath is sacred. And this life, this precious, aching, miraculous life, is your opportunity to remember the truth that was never lost. Only learning. Then let us go further still, deeper into the sanctuary where the soul no longer seeks to be found, but simply to be felt. For you were never meant to live at the surface. never meant to skim the waves of life in pursuit of fleeting treasures. You were meant to dive, to sink into the immeasurable depth of your own being and discover that the treasure was never out at sea, it was the ocean itself, and you were always the water. This remembering is not loud. It is not dramatic. It does not announce itself with trumpets or demand your attention with chaos. It arrives softly, like dusk folding into night. It comes when you finally grow quiet enough to hear what has always been true, that your spirit has never wandered, only your thoughts did, that your essence was never wounded, only your story was. And the moment you stop clinging to the story, when you cease identifying as the character and return to the awareness behind the page, something extraordinary happens. The pain begins to soften, not because it has disappeared, but because it no longer defines you. You become the space around the sorrow, the sky around the storm, the silence that does not resist what is, but embraces it into wholeness. Do you see now? You were not failing when you were lost. You were learning what the map could never teach you. You were learning that guidance is not found in the stars alone, but in the stillness within your chest. That wisdom is not passed down from outside you, but rises like steam from the sacred fire burning quietly in your core. And once you feel that fire, once you truly feel it, you will never again search for warmth in the coldness of approval. You will no longer beg for light from others when your own is blazing. But this fire does not roar. It glows. It hums. It whispers your name in a language that no mouth can speak. It calls you not forward or backward, but inward. It says, come closer, come home, come be who you already are. To live from this place is to live from wholeness. It is to walk not as one who is trying to become, but as one who remembers. And in that remembrance, the world no longer holds you captive with its conditions. Because you know the secret, that peace is not found at the end of achievement, but at the beginning of acceptance. That love is not something you earn, but something you are. You are love. You are truth. You are the expression of a sacred intelligence that chose, out of all possible moments in time, to bring you into this one. And it did not bring you here to doubt your light. It brought you here to embody it. Let yourself be embodied. Let yourself come down from the towers of overthinking and rest in the soil of your own breath. Let your life be less of a performance and more of a prayer. Let your heart be soft again, not because it is unbroken, but because it is unafraid to be broken open. The cracked places, after all, are where the soul sings most clearly, where the divine pours through, where you no longer need to pretend that everything is fine, because you finally realize that everything is already sacred, even the mess, even the ache, even the longing that has followed you like a shadow. Longing is not your enemy. It is the echo of eternity, reminding you that your soul remembers something the world has made you forget, something real, something holy, something whole. You were never meant to silence your longing. You were meant to follow it not outward but inward, for it always points back to the place you began, back to the place before the names, before the wounds, before the striving, back to the truth. And the truth is not a concept. It is not a belief. It is a felt presence. It is the ground of being beneath your fears, beneath your ambitions, beneath the ever-turning wheels of desire. It is what remains when all else is surrendered. And when you touch it, when you finally surrender enough to fall into it, you realize that you were never separate, never late, never broken. You were just learning how to remember, learning how to be still enough, honest enough, brave enough to let yourself be seen not by the world, but by your own soul. And when your soul sees itself again, truly sees it, recognizes everything as sacred, every moment, every breath, every trembling step along the path. Even now, as you read this, something ancient stirs within you. It does not speak in words, but in warmth. It does not convince. It simply invites. You need not be ready. Readiness is an illusion born from fear disguised as caution. You need only be willing to soften, to listen, to allow the armor to crack where the light can enter. For it is not your perfection that will lead you home. It is your presence, your holy, human, unguarded presence. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when the roles grow too heavy, the mask too suffocating, when the applause of the world feels like static, and even the familiar becomes unbearable. This is not a collapse. It is a birthing. This is not an ending. It is an invitation to shed the layers that no longer belong to you, to unlearn the stories that kept you small, to step, trembling and whole, into the sanctuary of your original self. You are not the person they told you to be. You are not the opinions they gave you, the rules they handed down in fear. You are not the echo of their expectations, nor the mirror of their projections. You are the awareness that noticed it all, the witness who never left, the consciousness who saw the costume and longed always for the return to truth. And truth, it does not shout, it does not fight, it waits patiently. Like a mountain that has withstood the storms of centuries, unshaken by the winds of opinion, truth waits until your soul is tired enough of pretending to finally sit down and be still. And in that stillness where no strategy survives, where no image can hold something ancient emerges, a clarity not born of analysis, but of surrender. A knowing that has no origin because it is older than time itself. It is the knowing that you are not here to impress, but to express. You are not here to get ahead, you are here to get aligned. You are not here to win, you are here to wake up. Wake up to the sacredness in your own breath. Wake up to the miracle of being aware, of being alive, of being love itself, wrapped in skin, and walking through a world that has forgotten what is real. But you have not forgotten, not truly. You have remembered it in glimpses, in the way your chest tightens when you see something beautiful, in the tears that fall for no reason except that your heart has momentarily remembered its home, in the moments of quiet joy, unprovoked by success, in the still hours of night when your soul leans gently against the window of the stars and says, I know you. This knowing is not taught, it is revealed. And everything in your life, every joy and every sorrow has been conspiring to bring you to this revealing. Every closed door, every unexpected turn, every detour that shattered your plans has been a thread in the tapestry of your return. And what you are returning to is not a belief, but a being, not a doctrine, but a deepness, not something outside of you, but the holy pulse within you that speaks not in sentences, but in sensation. The pulse that says, this is it, this moment, this breath, this is where the divine lives. When you touch this space, you no longer need to grasp. You no longer chase. You no longer perform. Because nothing can be added to the infinite. And that is what you are, the infinite, localized for a while, in a form, playing a part, until the part dissolves and the infinite expands once more. So do not mourn what you are releasing. The letting go is not loss, it is liberation. The grief you feel is sacred. It is the sound of your soul stretching. It is the music of expansion, and like every sacred rhythm, it will carry you if you let it. Do not resist the music. Dance, even if your steps are uncertain, even if your body shakes, even if your heart aches. Dance with the mystery. Dance with the divine. Let life be your partner and the present moment your floor. Because the soul does not require certainty, it requires intimacy. Intimacy with what is, with the breath, with the silence, with the raw, unfiltered now. And in that intimacy you remember, you are not broken, you are blooming. Not behind, but perfectly timed. Not falling apart, but falling into place. This is not the end of your journey. It is the re-beginning of your becoming. You are not standing at the edge. You are standing at the threshold. And thresholds are sacred. They do not ask you to be ready. They ask you to be real. They ask not for perfection, but for present. They require not certainty, but trust. The kind of trust that knows the ground will rise to meet your foot, even if you cannot yet see it. And so now, dear one, you walk forward, not away from yourself, but deeper into your truth. Not into a new identity, but into the timeless essence that was never touched by confusion or fear or failure. That essence that watched patiently while you tried on every mask, every name, every story. That essence that smiled as you wandered, knowing all the while you were not lost, you were only learning. Learning how to see with eyes that do not judge. Learning how to feel without fleeing. Learning how to love without grasping. Learning how to stand, naked and unadorned, and still know yourself as holy. And now you do. Now you remember, the sacred isn't coming, it's already here. It's in your breath. It's in the pause between thoughts. It's in the way the sun folds across your face in the morning, and in the way your heart continues to beat without asking anything in return. It's in your longing, which was never a weakness, but a compass, pointing back to your source. You are the miracle. Not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. Who you have always been beneath the noise, beneath the proving, beneath the forgetting. Let your soul rest in that remembrance. Let your mind bow to it. Let your body breathe it in like air. This life, this wild, tender, aching life is not a test. It is a temple, and your being is the offering. Your presence is the prayer. You are not here to perform sacredness. You are here to realize you already are it. You are not a seeker anymore. You are a finder. You are not running anymore. You are arriving. You are not waiting anymore. You are awakening. And awakening is not a destination. It is a return to the place you never truly left, the place within that still echoes with a voice of eternity whispering, you are enough. You have always been enough. And so walk forward, not as someone chasing the light, but as the light itself. Not as someone proving their worth, but as the living proof of love's presence in the world. Not as someone trying to be divine, but as divinity embodied, breathing, becoming. Let the old self fall like petals in the wind. Let the illusions dissolve like mist at sunrise. Let your true self rise, not because it is new, but because it is now free to be seen. And if doubt returns, as it sometimes will, do not resist it. Greet it with the same love that now guides your every breath. Let it come, let it pass. For you are no longer the fear, you are the space that holds it. You are no longer the pain, you are the presence in which it softens. You are no longer the wound, you are the wisdom that grew from it. So life, live not in pursuit of meaning, but as the embodiment of it. Live not in search of the sacred, but as the sacred revealed. Live as the answer, because you are. And when the world looks at you confused by your calm, softened by your stillness, moved by your presence, do not try to explain, just smile. Because now you know you were never lost. You were only learning, and now you are free. There comes a moment, not in the noise of ambition, not in the loud applause of victory, but in the hush between breaths, when the soul leans forward and whispers, you do not need to fight anymore. And in that moment, something ancient inside you begins to tremble, not from fear, but from recognition. A trembling that says, yes, I remember. I was not born for conflict. I was born for love. All the battles you have fought, all the grudges you have held, all the silent wars within your mind, what have they truly won you? Perhaps a sense of control, perhaps the illusion of power, but not peace, not joy, not the soft, sacred presence of love. You see, love and conflict cannot occupy the same space within you. One must yield. And in that yielding, a new way begins not through striving, but through surrender. Surrender is not defeat. It is the holy act of laying down the sword and remembering that you were never at war to begin with. The enemy you were resisting was never truly outside of you. The conflict was always an echo of your own forgetting. Forgetting that you are not separate, not alone, not unloved. Forgetting that your brother's soul is a mirror of your own. And so we begin here. In this remembering, there is a river flowing beneath every hardened thought, every clenched fist, every anxious heartbeat. It is the river of love, soft, unassuming, endlessly patient. It does not force its way through the rocks. It wears them down over time with presence. That river lives within you. It is the stream of divine energy that asks not that you win, but that you yield. Not that you conquer, but that you connect. You were not designed for battle. You were sculpted from stillness, fashioned by love, formed in the silent knowing of the Tao, which teaches not through resistance, but through flow. Lao Tzu said, nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water. Yet for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it. Let your heart be like water, not to give up, but to give in to the power of softness. When Jesus said, love your enemies, he wasn't offering a command. He was offering a key, a doorway to freedom. For when you love your enemies, they lose their hold on you. They no longer inhabit your mind like ghosts, haunting your peace. You release them not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. You deserve the freedom that forgiveness brings. Not just freedom from them, but freedom from the part of you that believed you were not already whole without the fight. Conflict is the voice of the ego, ever defending, ever needing to be right. But love is the voice of the soul, ever inviting, ever accepting, ever still. You do not need to prove anything to return to this voice. You need only to be quiet enough to hear it again. So much of our pain comes from our insistence on being separate, from needing to be right, needing to win, needing to stand above or apart. But the soul does not divide. It joins. It weaves connection where the mind sees division. It sees the one behind the many, the shared light behind the different forms. You are not at war with the world. You are at war with the walls you have built inside yourself. And the end of conflict is not when the outside changes. It is when those walls dissolve. When you stop needing others to change for you to feel peace. When you stop needing to explain, to justify, to defend. When you stop guarding your heart and start living from it. This is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. To meet the world not with retaliation, but with recognition. Not with bitterness, but with benevolence. To see in every face, even the ones that have hurt you, the same longing to be seen, to be loved, to be held. To recognize that those who wound are often carrying wounds of their own. That every act of aggression is a cry of the unloved self. You do not heal the world by adding to its fear. You heal the world by being the presence that no longer reacts from fear, that no longer needs to match the darkness of others, because it remembers that light is your essence. And when you bring light into darkness, the darkness does not win. It dissipates. Begin with this moment. Let it be a temple, not a performance, but a presence. Let your breath be the incense. Let your awareness be the altar. And let every thought of judgment, of fear, of separation be placed gently upon that altar and released. Not analyzed, not battled, just released. When you do this, you begin to feel the subtle miracle of being alive, not in the grand achievements, but in the quiet dissolving of conflict. You begin to feel the space between reactions, and in that space you find your true self, not the one shaped by pain, but the one made of peace. That self does not argue. It listens. It does not punish. It understands. It does not close. It opens. Because it knows that to live in opposition is to be imprisoned by your own resistance. And to live in love is to walk freely through the world, no longer needing the armor that once weighed you down. When the mind tells you, they hurt me, I must protect myself, gently ask, is this protection or is this a prison? When the ego says, they must apologize, they must change, ask, am I giving away my peace in waiting? And when the past rises wearing the mask of memory, ask, do I want to relive this story or am I ready to release it? Each time you choose love, you dismantle the story of separation. Each time you forgive, you set down the burden of being the warden of someone else's punishment. Each time you return to presence, you return to power, not the power of domination, but the power of divine alignment. You don't need to solve the whole world. You only need to come home to your own heart. And in doing so, you ripple outward. You become the calm in someone else's storm. You become the presence that allows another to exhale, not by fixing them, but by being fully, unapologetically at peace within yourself. The end of conflict does not mean the end of injustice. It means the beginning of your capacity to respond rather than react, to act from clarity rather than chaos, to see what needs to be done without needing to be someone. This is where love begins, not in sentiment, but in surrender. Let every breath be a soft unraveling of the stories you've told yourself about what love is supposed to be. Love is not possession. It is permission. It is the holy invitation to let another be as they are, even when that means letting go, even when that means not understanding, even when it hurts. And so, beloved soul, I say again, you do not need to fight anymore. The battlefield was never your home. The sword was never your salvation. Lay them down and pick up the stillness, the awareness, the grace. The world will tell you this is foolish, that you must stand your ground, defend your image, fight to be heard. But the soul knows better. The soul knows that true power is not in shouting, it is in shining, not in resisting, but in remembering. You are not here to win the war. You are here to end it, and the end begins within. The end of conflict is not a thunderous event. It is not marked by banners or bells or declarations made to the world. It is quieter than that. It begins the moment you decide to no longer argue with reality. It begins in the instant when your heart sighs in relief, no longer needing to carry the tension of 1,000 unmet expectations. You exhale. And in that breath, the war ends, not outside, but within. You see, peace is not something you earn. It is not awarded to the most deserving. It is not the result of a perfect sequence of actions. Peace is your natural state. It is the original condition of your soul before you were taught to defend, to compare, to brace against life. And to return to peace is not to gain something new. It is to release everything false. There is no conflict without resistance. And resistance is born not from truth, but from the fear of what is. When you believe you are separate, unworthy, or unsafe, you resist what arises. You label it, you judge it, you wish it were different. But when you see clearly, when you remember that life is not against you, but as you resistance dissolves into presence. Presence is the end of conflict, not because it erases pain, but because it meets pain without adding suffering. It meets pain with open arms and says, even this is welcome. Even this has something to teach me. Even this can be loved. Love, you see, is not a fragile flower that wilts under pressure. It is a fierce, eternal flame that burns through all illusion. It does not run from conflict, it transforms it. It does not fear darkness, it illuminates it. And when you choose love over fear, presence over projection, you become that flame. You become the light that no shadow can touch. But to choose love requires courage. Not the courage to conquer, but the courage to soften your gaze, to soften your grip, to soften your story, to look at the parts of yourself you've hidden behind walls and say, you are safe now, you can come home. Because it is not just others you've been in conflict with, it is yourself. The self you judged, the self you tried to fix, the self you silenced when it didn't meet the standards imposed by a world that forgot the sacredness of being. But the soul never forgets. The soul knows that your worth is not conditional. It knows that your beauty is not in your performance. It knows that healing is not a destination, but a return to what has always been whole beneath the masks, beneath the roles, beneath the noise. And so, when you release the inner conflict, when you stop trying to earn what is already yours, you become available to love. Truly available. Not as a concept, not as a fleeting emotion, but as a living force. A force that flows through your presence, through your gaze, through your silence. The end of conflict is not just the absence of fighting, it is the presence of grace. Grace that no longer needs to control. Grace that no longer needs to prove. Grace that trusts in the unfolding of life, even when it does not understand. This trust is not naive. It is not weakness. It is a holy defiance of the fear that has run your life for too long. It is the sacred choice to meet uncertainty with surrender instead of strategy. To meet discomfort with breath instead of armor. To meet others not with suspicion, but with truly seeing them as extensions of the same divine field. In this field, there are no enemies. Only expressions of love remembered or forgotten. Only souls on the same path home. Each taking a different road, each carrying different wounds. And the more you remember this, the less you judge. The less you defend, the less you separate. You begin to live in communion, not competition. You begin to listen, not to respond, but to understand. You begin to speak not to be right, but to be real. And this reality, the one rooted in soul, in presence, in love, is the only one worth returning to. As the veil of conflict thins, you begin to see not just with your eyes, but with the eyes behind your eyes. You begin to perceive with the quiet clarity of the eternal self, the self that was never injured by opinion, never diminished by rejection, never stained by judgment. And in this clarity, something remarkable happens. Forgiveness becomes inevitable, not as a moral achievement, but as a natural consequence of vision restored. You do not need to try to forgive. You only need to see truly, to see the pain behind the attack, the fear behind the cruelty, the illusion behind the harshness. Forgiveness is not a favor you grant another, it is a freedom you grant yourself. It is the dissolving of the rope that tied you to a wound you no longer wish to revisit. And when that rope dissolves, your heart no longer drags the past behind it like a broken wing. You begin to fly, not in the eyes of the world, but in the sacred skies of your own freedom. Every ounce of conflict you've carried has weighed down the wings of your being. Every resentment, every grudge, every silent argument in your mind, these are the chains that bind you to what no longer lives. But what if I told you that the lock was never real, that the key was never lost, that in this very moment, with this very breath, you could release yourself, the mind will protest. It will say, but what they did was wrong. But I was right. But justice demands pain. And yet I ask you, whose pain are you carrying? Whose life are you delaying? Is justice served by staying in suffering, or is it awakened in the freedom to live unburdened? There is a deeper law than retribution. There is a higher justice than punishment. It is the justice of love which restores what was lost, not by demand, but by grace. And this justice begins when you stop keeping score and start keeping present. To be present is to be whole. And when you are whole, no one else's brokenness can define you. When you are rooted in being, no storm of criticism can uproot your peace. When you know who you are not as an idea, but as an experience, you no longer need the world to mirror your worth. You carry that mirror within. And in that mirror, you begin to see others differently. The ones you feared, you now recognize their fear. The ones who wronged you, you now sense their confusion. The ones you clashed with, you now feel their longing for love, for acceptance, for peace. Conflict dissolves not because others change, but because you are no longer looking through the eyes of the ego. The ego looks to win. The soul looks to understand. And understanding is the soil from which compassion grows, not a pitying compassion, but a sacred, silent recognition. I see you, not your behavior, not your story, but the light within you that forgot itself. And when you see like this, the world changes not because it becomes easier, but because you stop making it harder. You no longer add fuel to the fire of fear. You become water again. Cool, soft, patient. You nourish what is real and allow what is false to wither on its own. And from this state, love arises. Not dramatic love, not conditional love, but holy love, the kind that needs no words, the kind that shines from your presence like sunlight, making no effort, asking nothing in return. This love is your essence. Not something you give, not something you receive, but something you are. The end of conflict is not the end of your strength. It is the beginning of your truest power, the power to stand in love when it would be easier to hate, the power to see clearly when the world prefers blindness, the power to walk lightly in a heavy world, not by escaping it, but by entering it fully with your heart open, your spirit awake, and your presence intact. This is the quiet revolution, and you are its beginning. There is a sacred art to no longer needing to be understood. It is the art of the soul that does not speak to be validated but to express, that does not listen to be right but to connect, that does not walk into a room looking to prove anything but simply to radiate the quiet knowing of wholeness. And when you live from this place, you are no longer participating in the performance of life. You are embodying its truth. This embodiment is not loud, it is not showy, it is not wrapped in titles or accomplishments. It is found in the smallest things, the way your eyes soften when you meet a stranger's pain, the way your breath steadies when chaos swirls around you, the way you smile not out of obligation but because your heart is no longer at war with the moment. This is the end of conflict, not when the world grows still, but when your resistance to it does. Not when people finally treat you how you wish, but when your peace no longer depends on how you are treated. Not when life gives you everything you asked for, but when you realize it already gave you everything you truly need, this breath, this awareness, this infinite now. You begin to notice how often the conflict was not in what happened, but in what you believed about what happened. You were not hurt only by the act, but by the meaning you gave it, the story you wrapped around it, the identity you attached to it. But meaning is not fixed, story is not stone. You can rewrite what you once believed was carved into you. You can revise the script not by pretending it never happened, but by no longer letting it define who you are. The true self is not defined by history. It is not bound by memory. It is the eternal witness, the silent seer behind the shifting scenes of your life. And when you begin to rest in that awareness, you touch something so vast, so unnameable, that even your deepest wounds begin to dissolve like fog in morning sunlight. This is what it means to be free, not free from emotion, but free within it, not numb, but open, not invulnerable, but unafraid. You feel fully, not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough to remain open in a world that teaches you to close. Let every sorrow come. Let every shadow rise. Let every ghost of the past knock at your door and welcome them, not as invaders, but as visitors, as messengers, as sacred guests sent to help you remember what part of yourself you've left behind in the cold. And one by one, with each breath of presence, you begin to reclaim those lost parts, not through force, but through forgiveness. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is not excusing. It is not condoning. Forgiveness is remembering who you are beyond the wound. Forgiveness is saying to yourself, I will no longer carry what is not mine to carry. It is the ultimate act of self-liberation, and it is born not from righteousness, but from love. The kind of love that recognizes its own reflection in every face, even the faces of those who could not love you back, even the faces that wounded you from their own place of pain, because that's the truth. People do not hurt others from their wholeness, they hurt from their fractures. They lash out not because they are full of truth, but because they are empty of it. And when you see this, truly see it, you can stop taking it personally. You stop needing an apology to be at peace. You stop needing closure to move forward. You stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to be free. And in that stopping, you begin. You begin to walk this earth as a being of light disguised in human form. You begin to speak not from wounds, but from wisdom. You begin to meet others not with expectation, but with sacred curiosity. Who are you beneath your pain? Who are you beyond your defense? Who are you when you too are free? And just like that, love is born. Again and again and again. It was never gone. It was only covered. Covered by hurt, by pride, by fear. But love is like the sun. It doesn't stop shining just because the clouds pass through. And you are that Sunday. You are that radiance. You are that presence behind every storm. This is the great return. Not to who you thought you needed to become, but to who you have always been underneath the armor. When you truly understand that you are not here to win the war, but to end it, you begin to see differently. You begin to breathe differently. You begin to live not as a soldier, but as a sanctuary. And this shift from warrior to witness, from defender to divine observer, is not a retreat from life, but a return to it. You realize that the need to be right has cost you more than you ever gained, that every argument you clung to, every justification you rehearsed, was a subtle way of reinforcing the illusion that you were separate. Separate from them, separate from love, separate from your own soul. But separation is a dream, a passing mist, a trick of the ego. In truth, there is no them. There is only you, wearing different masks, living different stories, dreaming different dreams, and beneath it all, yearning to awaken from the same illusion. This is why the end of conflict is not the end of your power, but the beginning of your radiance. Because when you no longer need to win, you begin to serve. When you no longer need to dominate, you begin to guide. When you no longer need to defend, you begin to heal. And healing does not mean forgetting what happened. It means no longer letting what happened define your response to what is happening now. It means remembering that peace is not a passive state, it is a powerful one. A choice, a discipline, a way of living so rooted in your divine identity that nothing outside of you can steal it. The old you, the one built on wounds, on defense, on control, will tremble as it begins to fall away. Let it. Let the shedding feel like loss if it must, but know it is a sacred loss. You are not losing yourself. You are losing everything that was never you. Every label, every reaction, every role you played to survive. Survival is not living, and you were not born to merely endure. You were born to shine, to love, to expand, to be the open sky, not the storm that passes through it. Conflict teaches you to close, but life calls you to open. And when you answer that call, when you open your arms, your heart, your being, to what is, you meet the present moment without resistance. And the present moment is the only place where God lives, not in your memory, not in your projections, but here, now, in this breath. And in this breath, all is well. Not perfect, but whole. Not finished, but sacred. You begin to trust something deeper than logic. You begin to be led by something quieter than thought. Intuition becomes your compass. Compassion becomes your language. And you no longer see relationships as battlegrounds, but as mirrors, as classrooms, as sacred opportunities to remember who you are and who you are not. Let that remembering become your practice. Let it be the fire that burns away the need to be superior, to be defended, to be adored. Let it be the stillness that dissolves your urgency, your striving, your tension. Let it be the light that exposes your fear, not to shame it, but to love it home. Because the end of conflict is not a destination you reach one day. It is a choice you make in every moment. A choice to turn away from the illusion of separation and toward the eternal truth of connection. You are not the pain that was done to you. You are not the defense you learned to build. You are not the story you told to survive. You are the soul that is learning, breath by breath, to let it all go. To release the narrative, to return to the presence, to become again what you have never stopped being, a vessel of love. You have walked through the valley of conflict. You have felt the burn of injustice, the sting of misunderstanding, the ache of needing to be heard. And still, you are here, not hardened, not broken, but softened into presence, widened into wisdom, expanded into love. And now, at the edge of all you once fought to hold, you are asked one final question, not by the world, but by your soul. Are you willing to live unguarded? Not foolishly, not recklessly, but unguarded in the way that flowers are unguarded when they bloom toward the Sunday, in the way that rivers are unguarded as they empty themselves into the ocean, in the way that love is unguarded when it gives without condition, not because it is naive, but because it knows it cannot run out. To live unguarded is to finally trust the current of your own life, to no longer dam the river of emotion or resist the tides of change or fight the flow of what is. It is to step back from the threshold of fear and say, I am done defending what no longer needs protection. I am done armoring a heart that was made to feel. I am done building walls around a soul that was meant to shine. And when you do this, when you choose the path of radical openness, the world does not grow safer. It grows sacred. Every encounter becomes holy. Every face becomes divine. Every wound becomes a window through which grace enters. You begin to see that what you feared was never the other. It was the reflection of your own unhealed self in the mirror of relationship. But now, you no longer fear what you see. You embrace it. You bless it. You integrate it. Because you finally understand nothing outside of you has power unless you give it power. You are the stillness in the storm. You are the light in the confusion. You are the love that never left. And so you begin to walk the world not with a clenched fist, but with open hands. Not to control, but to offer. Not to demand, but to give. You become a presence so rooted in your being that even in chaos, you are calm. Even in rejection, you are whole. Even in loss, you are complete. This is what it means to be truly free. Not freedom as the ego defines it, a life without challenge, but freedom as the soul knows it, the capacity to remain in love no matter what. And this, beloved one, is the beginning of heaven on earth. Not a place you go to, a place you create with every surrendered breath, with every gentle word, with every silent choice to choose connection over control. The end of conflict is not a finish line. It is a starting point, the start of love, real love, the kind that doesn't rush into fix but sits still to feel, the kind that doesn't say you must become but whispers you already are, the kind that looks at a world on fire and says, I will be the water. Be that water, be that stillness, be that love. Let your life be the quiet revolution that shows others there is another way, a softer way, a truer way, a way where conflict ends and communion begins. You are not here to change the world by force. You are here to remember the world by heart. And when you do, when you live from that remembrance, you become the very thing the world has been aching for, a being who has made peace with life, a being who has made peace with themselves. And so we arrive not at the end, but at the return to what was always true, always whole, always present. The end of conflict is the start of love, and love is where you belong.